Hey everyone. You know, it's hard to believe that this past November and December 2015 actually marked 4 years since the Mecha Sally arc began. Now, about 2 years ago on some of the Sega forums and here on YouTube, I asked the question, was the Mecha Sally arc necessary? Or basically, was the Mecha Sally arc did the Mecha Sally arc did the Mecha Sally arc necessarily have to go so long? And I made my points there. Looking back, I will say that I don't think it needed to go so long. It wasn't really necessary in a sense to go as long as it did. Excuse me. I look at the fact that the Mecha Sally arc, originally was intended to go 20 issues. Now that is long. It's almost 2 years. And just by the fact that fans can only stomach 17 months of it, I think kind of really acknowledges the fact that even though, as I said many times before, there was potential there with the arc, there was potential to do some good with it, and a lot of people, whether they liked it or they didn't like it, have all agreed that there was potential. But now, it's hard to believe that it's been 4 years since it began, and now, when one thinks about it, when you take a look at the fact that it all finally came to an end in 247, and when you take a look at the fact that when we got to, 252, and we saw the ending there, that looking back on it now, it officially, Sally being back to normal, her return to being Sally in a sense with a new redesign and everything, it's actually almost been, it's been 39 months as of upcoming, 39 issues. 39 months, which is hard to believe. 39 months. I mean, when one thinks about it, it's been technically 3 years and 3 months. 3 years and 3 months. 39 months. 3 years and 3 months since it all came to a head. 3 years and 3 months. 3 and a quarter, or 3 and a third, or whatever you want to call it. Been that long. 39 months ago, 39 months. When you think about it. 3 months ago, when one thinks about it. 3 months ago, we're now in April. 3 months ago was what? March? February? January? Around that? 3 months, honestly, if you take a look, it's about, let's see, from today to, what's today? Today's the 18th, so to March 18th is a month, to February is 2, January is 3. It's been 3 months. So back in January, it had been 3 years. 3 years since this all ended. Since 252, in a sense, took off and began the NU 52 of Sonic. But when you take a look at the fact that it was all because of the Worlds Collide crossover, and mostly due to the fact that even before that, for 17 months, but basically the final page of 230, which was released in December of 2011, November and December of 2011, that for 17 months, that includes a whole year. It includes a whole year from that time to November and December of 2012. And then you add 5 more months. 5 more months. A whole year. From 230 to 242 or 241. A whole year. And you add 5 to 6 more months to that time frame of November 2012, December 2012, Then you add December 2012, January 2013. You had January and February 2013. You had February, March 2013. You had, well, basically, let's take a look this way. December to December is a year. And then you add, 6 more issues, in a sense? Or 5.5 more issues, whatever. And you're looking at January, February, March, April, May, June. I mean, it did not end. It did not end until around May or June of 2013. Yeah, 2013. It didn't end. And all that time, a lot of people say that it was nothing but filler. A lot of people say it was the greatest thing they had seen because it opened up a world of possibilities. It showed off a different side of Sally, even in mechanized, roboticized form. But even still, was it necessary to go so long? I asked that question. And I don't know if I answered it then, but correctly then in that video, but I'll answer it now. And I'll tell you honestly, no. I don't think it should have gone that long. Heck, I don't think it should have been planned to go to freaking 250, even though we pretty much knew, I pretty much knew, any fan that was following the book knew, even if, like me, they weren't reading the issues until it was over. We all pretty much knew it was going to originally plan in 250. I mean, why have it go so long? Why have it go so long? And again, looking back on it, there just was no payoff. There really wasn't. I mean, I know I've hyped on it. I know others have hyped on it. But the thing is, if you know somewhat that you're not going to be able to get what you want out of this, then you should pretty much finish it up as soon as you can. Don't keep padding and padding and padding and editing and last minute editing and last minute editing and cutting room flooring. Don't keep doing that if you know pretty much, oh, I'm not going to be able to get what I want. Save yourself the trouble and just do it. Just say, you know what? I was going to make 247 this and I was going to conclude it in 250, but nah, I'll just do it this way. I'll just get it done with it. I mean, I would have been honestly, if they would have not done that freaking Olympics tie-in for 242, they could have used, when you think about it, they could have used that issue for for 243 or whatever, and then they could have done 246 and 247, or maybe even 245, 46, and 47, and they could have climaxed it there. They could have. And then they could have gone into the crossover. You could have found another way to do it. But they didn't. And to me, it's like that was a missed opportunity. It really was. It was a really missed opportunity. And, here's the thing. I mean, I know we're going to constantly keep waiting. We don't know. We don't know when Ian Flynn is going to finally finish up Lost Hedgehog Tales. We know that Ben Bates has come out and pretty much said, hey, 250 was when it was supposed to be over. Seriously? Not according to Ian Flynn. But anyway, the point is, looking back at it almost now, I can't even believe this. It's about 4.5 years now. It's going on 4.5 years, folks. 4.5 years. Yeah. 4.5 years since it began. It's going to be 5 years in November and December of this year. You know that. But 4.5 years ago, man, almost 4.5 years, the Mecha Sally arc began. And it's almost 3.5 years, or a little over 3 years, and it's over. It was over. Yeah. 4.5 years ago it began. And now a little over 3 years is when things were put to rest, basically. And again, even though I didn't like what they did, I pretty much was very vocal. I was one of those that was like, I don't like it because this is not how I see Sally. I don't see Sally saying these kind of things or doing these kind of things. Even though I didn't like it, I have admitted there was potential. The potential to do more. But they didn't. I mean, I looked at what Ace of Speed did with one of their pictures, Ace of Speed 98 or whatever his name is, with one of their pictures, and that's potential. They could have done something like that with Sally. They could have forced Eggman's hand to be the one that says, okay, I'm going to restore her. But they didn't. There was so much potential, it was thrown out the window. And it was all for naught. And when one thinks about it, folks, if Ian Flynn, Ben Bates, and anybody else pretty much knew what was going to happen behind the scenes, I mean, come on, all these mandates and edits they were told to make, all these cuts, I mean, come on. Does that not wake somebody up and make them realize, oh crap, I may not be able to get to tell the story the way I want to. Let me finish it up with the issues that I'm going to be allowed to finish it up with. Don't you think that would have made more sense? Don't you think someone over at Archie Comics, I should say, should at least inform them? So that way Ian Flynn can say, you know what? You know that story I had planned for 250 where she gets restored? We're putting it in 247. Be done with it and then find a different way to put Worlds Collide, make it happen, or at least make it its own thing and not have to deal with the continuity, not have to screw up the book. I think a lot of people listening would agree with that. I mean, heck, you take a look at Worlds Collide. I've said it before. Ian Flynn missed the boat on taking the roboticized masters and having the doctors add, with the exception of Tails and Rouge, have them add that one additional ability to merge into one mecha roboticized mecha master, or one big roboticized master robot. I mean, that could have been so well done. They had the opportunity there, and they didn't take it. The point is, what I'm saying is, the Mecha Sally arc overall, I may have not been a fan of it. I know a lot of fans may have not been a fan of it. But when I think about it now, and I'm sure Ian Flynn feels the same way, and I'm sure Ben Bates feels the same way, it's hard to believe that it was 4.5 years ago. 4.5 years ago now, when it began, and it's almost been 3 years, it's a little over 3 years since the reboot began. Hard to believe, folks. It's been a little over 3 years since the soft retcon reboot began, and it's been 4 years, a little over 4.5 years, when the Mecha Sally arc began. And still, I'll tell you this, despite how you feel about different arcs, whether they are long-term ones, short-term ones, I'll tell you this, the Mecha Sally arc has earned its place in Sonic lore, in Sonic history, probably being the most controversial, and in the eyes of some, the most padded, most fillered, most unnecessary arc ever. And that's the truth. That is a damn truth and fact. Again, it had the potential, but that potential was wasted. And now we got to constantly wait until Ian Flynn gets the time, whenever he gets around to it, to finish. I mean, he's got a good start with Lost Hedgehog Tales Chapter 1. Now we have to wait for Chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. And with his busy schedule, who knows when that's going to happen? I mean, I admit, yeah, he's got a lot on his plate. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? He needs to at least get Chapter 2 out before the summer. 25th anniversary, Ian, you need to get that, at least Chapter 2 out. That's all I'm going to say. If not, hand your notes and everything over to somebody else. Let them do it for you. That's all I'm saying. Because if not, if you don't find a way to give a definitive, clear answers to what you originally had planned, then people are going to constantly look at the Mecha Sally arc as a complete, unnecessary, filler, padded waste of time. And they're looking back in it right now, 4.5 years ago, and they're looking back at it now, 4.5 years later, and thinking, we went through this for 17 issues, for 17 months, a year and a half almost, a year and a half for nothing. But I will say this, Ian, and I think a lot of fans will be listening. When you get to the end of Panic in the Sky, you better have something planned for Sally confronting Eggman with memories of her as Mecha Sally. Because you know what? folks, I picture a sequence, a panel or so, a few panels, where Sally's teasing, maybe baiting and teasing Eggman that she's going to drop him just like she had him drop Sonic as Mecha Sally. And having him beg for her not to do it. And that will lead maybe to some kind of deal, some kind of bargain that Eggman probably won't keep, but still be a temporary bargain or deal. But that's just me, and hopefully, Ian Flynn, you might put that, hopefully you'll put that into the story. But anyway, folks, I thought I'd just get that on my chest because when one thinks about it, it's hard to believe it's been 4.5 years since the Mecha Sally arc began, and 3 years, a little over 3 years, since the soft retcon and reboot